with a 261 horsepower engine that'll take you 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds. Always obey local speed and traffic laws.
Don't let someone else drive off in the Audi model you've always wanted. Visit your tri-state area Audi dealer to get behind the wheel of yours today, or visit AudiOffers.com for more information.
Bloomberg Invest returns to London on March 22nd, gathering leading financial thinkers in investing to identify the biggest risks and greatest opportunities facing economists, money managers, and influential investors in the region. From traditional investment tools to crypto to alternative assets, how should we put our money to work? Join to hear from executives from Blackstone, Quantum Light, and Sotheby's. Learn more about Bloomberg Invest strategies for wealth creation at BloombergLive.com/investradio.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit NoTimeToWait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Our engineers don't just ship code, they shape global financial markets. As a technologist at Bloomberg, you'll solve real-world problems for our customers in real time, so you can make an impact from day one. Ready to go further? Start at Bloomberg.com/thinkbigger. Change can be disruptive, but at Bloomberg, we think bigger. Our sell-side solutions combine trading and automation with market-leading data, so you can evolve, scale, and embrace change. This is Bloomberg for the sell side. Visit Bloomberg.com/sell-side.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash. It's 4:21 on Wall Street. We do check markets all day long here on Bloomberg. We begin with a developing story tonight. Sources tell Bloomberg Uber Technologies is exploring whether to spin off its Uber freight logistics arm in a sale, or perhaps as a separate publicly traded company to streamline its focus on ride-hailing and food delivery. Uber shares, they're moving after ours. Right now, we've got Uber stock up by just about 2.1%. Also keeping an eye on MongoDB. That stock lower in extended trading after the infrastructure software company gave a full-year revenue forecast that was weaker than expected. It did also report fourth-quarter results that were ahead of the analyst consensus, but after ours, we got shares of MongoDB down by roughly 5%. Wall Street did not get much relief today from Jay Powell's testimony to lawmakers, especially after another round of jobs numbers came in on the hot side, bolstering bets that the Fed will have no alternative but remain hawkish in the months to come. Choppy session, equities were whipsawed in the end. The S&P ended the day with a gain of 5 points, up by about 0.1%. The Dow down 58, down 0.2. NASDAQ up 45, a gain there of 0.4%. 10-year yield 3.9%, 3.98% on the 10-year. The 2-year, highest since 2005. The yield there 5.06%. Spot gold, little change now, up 53 cents, 18.13 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude down 1.4%, 76.53 a barrel. Recapping, S&P up 0.1. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, got it, Charlie. Thank you so much. Carol Master along with Mike Regan live in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio here on Bloomberg Business Week, which is brought to you by Innovation Refunds. This is your daily reminder from Innovation Refunds. See if your business is eligible for employee retention credit assistance with the team at Innovation Refunds. They help make the process easier and less stressful so you can focus on your business. Learn more at getrefunds.com. So, Mike, no doubt about it, everybody's talking about it. Jumping in, just yesterday, Salesforce's VC arm launched a $250 million fund, its largest to date, to invest in generative artificial intelligence startups. Bloomberg talked with Ken Griffin of Citadel. We talked about this too, how they are negotiating an enterprise-wide license to use OpenAI ChatGPT tool. I mean, everybody, it's everywhere.
It's amazing. I mean, you know what, there's been hype around AI for years, but it's just really reached this crescendo. It kind of reminds me of when companies would just started adding blockchain to the name of their company to get
or .com, way back when.
.com. So it's, you know, it's hard not to imagine that maybe people get a little carried away with this.
All right, so we want to talk about this. We want to talk about VC more broadly. We've got a perfect guest, Alison Gates, who's general partner at Semper Virens, where she invests in technology transforming companies in work health and financial wellness. She's with us via Zoom in San Francisco. She's got a book out, Breaking Into Venture. An outsider turned venture capitalist shares how to take risks, create power, and build life-changing wealth. Alison, welcome. Nice to have you here with us. First of all, if we could start broadly, what is the environment today for investing in startups? Is it a good one?
Today is actually the best time in recent history to invest in startups. The venture capital industry has gone through a lot of changes over the last several decades, but the best businesses tend to be built in recessions. And not that we're technically in a recession, but when you see a pullback, and it's a lot easier to determine which companies are actually building real value as opposed to just increasing their valuation because there are a lot of investors around the table. And these are the times when it's easier to find that signal from the noise.
You know, Alison, it seems like a year or two ago there was so much buzz towards crypto and Web3 in the VC space. How's the vibe there for that now? Is it, is that all sort of gone away? Is there any funding being done for crypto and Web3 businesses these days?
It's definitely cooled off significantly. And we've seen a lot of the excitement and the hype cycle around crypto and Web3 now move toward AI and generative AI, for your point earlier. But what I think is what's really important for investors and entrepreneurs to understand, and it's the reason why I wrote this book, is that venture capital is an industry that has hype cycle after hype cycle. And that is inevitable. And so being able to understand how to navigate some of that excitement and put it in context for yourself when you're deciding whether to take a job at a technology company, whether to invest in a technology company, whether to start one. You have to be able to sift through that and understand how the industry works if you're going to figure out what to actually pay attention to.
Let's go there. You said, to figure out what's hype and what's not. What is hype in this environment? What's not? AI, not hype.
I think everybody in venture agrees that AI is incredibly exciting. As you said, it's been around for a long time, but we've clearly crossed a threshold very recently where it can start to have some more exciting commercial applications. But again, the mission of this book is to try to open up the venture capital industry, make it apparent how it operates, what incentives are at stake, so that we can bring more types of people around the table. We're at a moment in time right now with AI where the business model behind some of its applications is going to determine who it affects, how it affects them, how it grows and changes over time. And it's going to be affecting us for generations. And we need more types of perspectives, more types of people around the table talking about what business model makes the most sense, because it is the venture investors behind some of these companies that determine what the business models are, and that has implications for society more broadly. So I think it's important that society is reflected in venture capital funds as well.
Are you saying to be fair, right, AI's been out there for a while, but we're taking it to another level. Is it fair to say that we really don't know exactly how it's going to impact us, and we're all kind of in this giant lab right now?
Absolutely. That's the exciting thing about disruption, is you just don't know exactly where it's going to go, but that's where the diversity of perspectives is really critical.
And Alison, the other obvious buzzworthy thing in VC was medical healthcare type of spaces after the pandemic. Is that where does that stand now? Is there still a lot of buzz or hype around startups dealing with sort of COVID or the next virus that we have to worry about type of situation?
We invest in digital healthcare, and COVID created a variety of catalysts for adoption of new technology in the space. When we evaluate a business, we look at 5 T's in our diligence process. We look at technology, team, terms, TAM, and most importantly, timing. And there are a lot of great ideas that just have the wrong timing. But COVID, I think, unlocked a lot of reimbursement models, made it possible to do virtual care, which has changed a lot of the landscape around healthcare. So I think we're still really excited about how that has disrupted the industry for the better. But there are a lot of businesses that that thought they had product market fit, but they actually had COVID market fit. And I think some of those are getting sorted out from the group now.
You know,
that makes sense.
It's interesting. I'm thinking if folks are listening to you, right? And there's a lot of folks who come out with MBAs and they don't necessarily go to Wall Street anymore. They do, it's kind of a touch and go, and then they go out to the venture capital world, right? And I, certainly think about your own experience, right? You were at Goldman and, here you are. But what I'm wondering is, when you think about companies who are buying, maybe it's older line companies, like I'm thinking about a Weight Watchers, right, that bought a telehealth provider yesterday. We saw the stock soar on the news. Like, what is your advice to folks who are looking at kind of trying to figure out where to go? Is this an old line company, but they're doing some cool things that are innovative? So what's your advice on that?
That's a lot of what we cover in the book, and of course on a cover it's geared toward anyone that wants to break into venture capital, but the concepts actually apply to any kind of career and figuring out where you want to place your bets, right? If you take a job at a company, you're actually investing your time and your reputation with that company as well. So it is very similar to the venture model in that way. And a lot of what I encourage individuals to do, whether you're an entrepreneur, a professional, or a venture capitalist, is to do your homework and understand what exactly you're joining, what that looks like, and then what it means for you in the future. Does it open up more possibilities, or will it shut off possibilities for you? So my advice is to surround yourself with people that can help you figure out what makes most sense and what's going on behind the curtain, because everybody knows how to tell a great story, but what really matters is who's pulling the strings and what kind of power they have and what that means for you.
Yeah, Allison, obviously the markets this year have been so laser focused on these surging interest rates. I'm wondering, does that have a chilling effect on early stage VC or not? Is it there's just so much dry powder that it doesn't really matter?
Absolutely, it has an impact. We're investing in growth businesses, right? And the cost of capital is a really big factor in how quickly companies can grow and how they're valued. And I think the current environment, the compression in multiples in the public markets, is going to have the biggest impact on later stage companies that have raised a lot of capital already and have raised at valuations that were based on assumed revenue rates that they hadn't yet reached. And now the environment is different, and so that has a waterfall effect. But when it comes to investing at the very early stages, and you're investing in new companies that haven't raised a lot of capital, that haven't made those promises to their investors yet, now is an incredible time to do that, right? Because they have a clean slate and they don't have that baggage dragging them back. So it actually creates an opportunity for new businesses to disrupt incumbents in a way that might have been harder when capital was a moat.
All right. Well, great to check in with you. Allison Baumgate, she is general partner at Semper Virens, joining us via Zoom from San Francisco. A headline crossing the Bloomberg Silvergate, a cryptotide bank that has certainly had its share of troubles. The headline is it's going to wind down its operations and liquidate, its Silvergate the stock bank it is, So let me repeat that again. Silvergate Capital to wind down its operations and liquidate Silvergate Bank. We have the stock, Silvergate Capital, down by 8% in the post-market. So we'll continue to track it. It's a few more headlines, if you will, crossing on that. All right, you are listening and watching Bloomberg Business Week. Let's get a check on world and national news. Off to Nancy Lyons. She's in D.C. Hey, Nan.
Thanks, Carol. President Biden's budget, that will be the focus of his speech tomorrow, will kick off a fight over spending in Washington, and House Republicans are already making plans in case the country goes into default. Bloomberg's Nathan Hager has more.
The House Ways and Means Committee says it will take up a bill that would prioritize some federal payments over others and keep checks going to seniors on Social Security if Republicans can't reach a deal with Democrats on the debt ceiling. The Washington Post reports House Republicans tried to pass a bill like this in 2015, but it never got a vote in the Senate. Democrats warned at the time that the legislation could eliminate funds for national security programs and the poor, just because the country couldn't afford to pay for them. In Washington, I'm Nathan Hager, Bloomberg Radio.
The annual assessment of global threats facing the U.S. is out, and the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, says China remains a significant concern.
The People's Republic of China, which is increasingly challenging the United States economically, technologically, politically, and militarily around the world, remains our unparalleled priority.
Haynes testified today before the Senate Intelligence Committee. She says China has resisted U.S. efforts to make it comply with Western sanctions against Russia, deepening its alliance with Moscow. She also offered new warnings about Chinese and Russian space warfare capabilities aimed at attacking U.S. satellites. President Biden is marking International Women's Day today by calling out a number of countries for suppressing women's rights. In a statement, Biden said while women have made progress over the decades, they're still under attack in countries like Afghanistan and Iran. He noted the Taliban now bars women and girls from attending school and working. Global news 24 hours a day, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons. This is Bloomberg.
Breaking business news from Sydney to Tokyo to Hong Kong. Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
I'm Brian Curtis.
And I'm Doug Krisner.
We'll look at the last BOJ meeting for Governor Haruhiko Kuroda and whether he delivers a surprise.
And we'll break down China's inflation data. Will producer prices remain stuck in deflation?
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia. Tonight at 6 on Bloomberg 1130, the Bloomberg Business app, or listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts.
This commercial's just a minute, but sometimes that's all it takes. I'm Frank Calamari, president of Calvary Hospital, a hospital unlike any other. Calvary provides extra special care to people living with very complex medical needs, with cancer, heart, kidney failure, COPD, and other serious illnesses. Loving, compassionate, expert care in our hospital or in your home relieves their pain and improves quality of life. And not just for the person who's sick. We also care for families and loved ones because we know they need comfort too. If you or someone you love is facing a life-limiting illness, take a minute and talk to us about